Tonight on the Your Life Matters Show podcast.
I was out with a group of friends, decided to walk home alone, and didn't realize I was in a pretty gang-heavy part of town and just in the wrong neighborhood, the wrong time. And these three guys came towards me, and I had a pretty nice sports jacket on with the local hockey team on it. And they wanted it, so I gave it to them, and then they came at me. I don't really remember too much, but I remember trying to defend myself horribly and just walking away. And I'm like, oh, well, that was bad. And I put my hand on my leg and I look at it, and it's like a Dexter scene. There's like blood literally just dripping off my hand, and I fell on the ground in a parking lot of a mall.
Behind every struggle, there's a story, and every story deserves to be heard. This is the Your Life Matters Show podcast. Your hosts are Steve Hodgson and licensed psychotherapist Dr. Eric L. Davis.
Tonight's episode is titled, My Daughter Asked Me to Race. At 400 pounds I couldn't. That moment changed my life. There is a moment many parents experience. A moment when you suddenly realize just how much your children are watching you. Not just listening to what you say, but learning from how you live. Every parent wants to give their children the very best. To protect them, to guide them, and hopefully one day, to stand beside them during the biggest moments of their lives. But life doesn't always unfold the way we planned. Trauma, stress, anxiety, and the pressures of life can quietly take a toll on our mental health. Sometimes those struggles lead people down paths they never expected, coping mechanisms that slowly begin to control their lives. And before they know it, they find themselves asking a difficult question. How did I get here? For some people, change happens slowly over time. But for others, change begins with a single moment. A moment so powerful, it forces you to take a hard look at your life and decide what kind of future you want to create, not only for yourself, but for the people who matter most. Today's guest experienced one of those moments. A moment involving his daughter that would ultimately transform his life. His journey is one of survival, struggle, redemption, and purpose. Today we hear the story of David Murphy.
Well, howdy, everyone, and welcome to another great episode of the Your Life Matters Show podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hodgson, and I'm here with my co-host, who is the person who helps me realize I don't need to be nice to everyone, licensed psychotherapist Dr. Eric L.
But most
Davis.
people, Steve, most.
Right. Well, I try to be nice to most of them. They can push those buttons every once in a while.
That's right.
New
That's
Yorker
right.
comes out. But, we have a good show this evening. Another one that came through the website that has to be a guest, but he's also runs his own podcast. So, he's used to this, and we have a very, very good interview with him tonight. So, as I say, it's an amazing show. But as always, before we get that far into the story this evening, I want to take a moment and reflect on our own health and wellness. So if you're having some issues that confuse you, making life harder to deal with, and affecting your mental health and those around you, we invite you to stop right now. Just stop for a minute. Show your power, not your weakness, and contact Waypost Counseling right now. See, because that is a power, not a weakness. So don't wait. Pick up the phone and call now. Give them a listen.
January came and went. We are sure you made your list of New Year's resolutions. Then February was here, then March, then April. If you are being honest, they were not resolutions. They were wishes so you would become a better you. For many who are suffering with some type of mental health issue, whether it be anxiety, stress, PTSD, marital issues, female issues, anger management, depression, grief, self-esteem, loneliness, gambling addiction, or substance abuse, any of the other resolutions are going to be difficult to achieve if you first do not make a resolution to take care of yourself first. At Waypost Counseling, we have helped many people begin that new journey even when it seemed hopeless. Some think the only way out is suicide. We are here to tell you, there is help. There is no need to continue to struggle alone. It is time to reach out and ask for help. And we want you to know that is not a sign of weakness. Instead, it is a sign of strength, courage, and a willingness to face the challenges you are experiencing head-on. Do it for those around you, your loved ones, but most importantly, do it for yourself. If you have a computer or laptop, you can get help from the privacy of your own home. There is no need to come to the office anymore. You can get help from anywhere in the United States. Pick up the phone and call Waypost Counseling today. Dial 317-762-0904 or 317-659-0179. You can also visit us on the web at waypostcounseling.com and request an appointment. Dr. Eric L. Davis, Aaron Davis, and Jeff Gazier are standing by to assist you. Hit the reset button on your life, your marriage, and help you feel once again that your life matters. You need to take that first step. Call Waypost Counseling right now. You will be glad you did.
Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about something that a lot of parents can probably relate to. Those moments when your children unintentionally hold up a mirror and make you look at your own life.
That's such a powerful point, Steve. Kids have a way of doing that without even realizing it. Sometimes it's a simple moment, something they say or do, and suddenly it makes you stop and think about your health, habits, or the example you're setting.
You know, I think every parent wants to be there for their children in those big moments in life. Birthdays, graduations, weddings, all those milestones that mean so much.
Yeah. And from a clinical perspective, those moments can actually be powerful catalysts for change. When people realize that their choices affect not just themselves, but the people they love most, it can sometimes motivate them to make life-changing decisions.
And you know, that's exactly what our story is about today. Our guest experienced one of those defining moments involving his daughter, a moment that forced him to take a hard look at his life and ultimately changed everything for him.
His story involves trauma, mental health strategies, addiction, and ultimately recovery. But it's also a story about resilience, purpose, and the incredible motivation that can come from wanting to be there for your family.
So today we're honored to welcome our very special guest, David Murphy, to our show. Okay, and he's going to share his amazing and inspiring story. I believe you'll be inspired by what he has to say. But before we bring David on, Dr. Davis, I got a couple of quick questions for you. Only three of them before we start. Tonight's story is about trauma, survival, addiction, and recovery. Tell us about trauma and what happens to our body and minds when we experience some kind of deep trauma.
So basically, when we experience a traumatic event, the brain is learning. So anytime, it's kind of like if you touch a hot stove and, then the brain now knows, oh, that hurts if I touch the stove. So when we experience traumatic things, our brain is learning, that there's danger. And so, if someone's assaulted, if they, any traumatic thing, have a car wreck, lose someone close to you, I mean, any matter of trauma imprints the brain. You can think of it in that way, where basically there's a new pathway that says this means danger, and we'll see a lot of that, like, for example, with post-traumatic stress disorder, if a person experiences God forbid, a really bad car accident, then obviously they're going to be anxious getting in the car the next time because, and that's that post-traumatic stress. It's saying, the brain is saying, wait a second. Last time we were doing this, it wasn't good. So that's really what's happening with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Well, we hope mostly they learn the first time and at the second and third
Well,
time.
yeah.
They have to do something. But see, we know that trauma can lead to PTSD.
Yes.
We've spoken about this a few times on the show. Now, if you would remind our listeners what PTSD truly is and how it affects our long-term mental health.
So PTSD truly is it's a response that our body experiences, with trauma. So if I go through a traumatic event, then I may, those images may pop into my head, different, things I see or hear could trigger me to think about that event. And it's basically just a person having a really difficult time letting go, you know, um, at least to the degree that they can, letting go of that experience. Um, because what happens is that that experience will basically continue to relive itself in our mind over and over. And that's really what PTSD is. It's a reliving and it's word out remanifestation of those symptoms, even after the fact.
And our guest tonight, we're bringing this up because David did go through all of this and we'll learn about it.
Yeah.
But why do so many people, after suffering some form of trauma, anxiety, or PTSD, turn to that self-medication? Whether it's alcohol, drugs, or others,
Mhm.
it could be anything, some destructive behavior. Why do they do that?
It's really to change the way that they feel. So a lot of individuals, especially with trauma and things like that, trauma would never, ever be enjoyable to experience. I mean, there's just so obviously, it's not when someone's struggling with PTSD, they don't want to experience that. And although it's not a good coping mechanism, one of the ways that people will sometimes try to do that is just to drink or get high, just to feel different for a little while. The problem with that is it may temporarily mask what's happening, but it doesn't solve the ultimate issue, you know?
That may actually create another issue.
Oh, absolutely. Or
Yeah,
yeah, or issues,
right. Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And it's so easy. Why you get to just don't want to be think about it tonight.
Yeah,
And stuff. And that's fine. Okay, if you're doing that once, but when you're doing that every night,
right.
or like our guest will tell you 4 or 5 nights a week,
Hmm.
then you're now creating an additional problem
Yeah.
on top of that. So I know you and I can talk about this subject for hours on end, and we have actually on the show, but I'd like to bring our guest into the show today. See, our guest had one of the most remarkable stories of resilience we've ever heard.
Yeah. David Murphy survived a brutal attack where he was stabbed 13 times. But the real battle came afterward, coping with PTSD, alcohol use, and a body that had been pushed to the limits.
Yep. So through determination, the love of his daughter, and a desire to help others suffering from trauma, David transformed his life.
He lost 170 pounds. Let me say that again, just in case you think you misheard me. He lost 170 pounds, raised thousands of dollars for PTSD support, and has been sober now for 3 years. He's an amazing gentleman.
Yes, he is. So let's go over to David's interview. David Murphy, we're truly blessed to have you here this evening to share your story with our listeners.
Yeah, David, if you would tell us about your growing up in Grand Falls, Newfoundland. Who were you back before the incident happened, and what your family life was like then?
Well, I was raised, well, first of all, thanks for having me on here. I was
Mhm.
raised by two Salvation Army officers, ministers, just a really loving family, brother, sister, close knit. My dad had 16 siblings, so it was a very large family, extended. And I was just around good people. I was around charity my whole life, donated every Christmas to like giving programs. Um, yeah, I was surrounded by a lot of love growing up, and pretty lucky when I hear some of my guest stories and that sort of thing. So I'm pretty fortunate.
So, okay, so the story tonight, if you would, uh, take us back to that night of April 1994, which, if I remember correctly, was around your 18th birthday. It was close to your 18th birthday. Describe what
Yeah,
happened that evening.
I was out with a group of friends, decided to walk home alone, and didn't realize I was in a pretty gang heavy part of town and just in the wrong neighborhood, the wrong time. And these three guys came towards me, and I had a pretty nice sports jacket on with the local hockey team on it, and they wanted it, so I gave it to them, and then they came at me. I don't really remember too much, but I remember trying to defend myself horribly and just walking away. And I'm like, oh, well, that was bad. And I put my hand on my leg and I look at it, and it's like a Dexter scene. There's like blood literally just dripping off my hand, and I fell on the ground in a parking lot of a mall. And found out after I had been stabbed 13 times. The two times on my leg severed my muscle. So I have half a muscle in my upper left leg. And thankfully, there was a volunteer firefighter who saw me who held my leg together long enough that ended up saving my leg. But
Oh,
9 on my back, I had a punctured lung, one wound missed um, my heart by half an inch. And
wow.
up here in Canada, we have what's called a loonie. It's like a little $1 coin. And the doctor after told me that the knife wound that went in my leg partially hit that and stopped it from going completely through my leg. So I would have, that's my lucky loonie. I still have it somewhere. I think my dad has it and it's bloodstained, but it's my lucky loonie.
Wow. And you were, I think if I remember reading correctly, you were at a comedy show earlier than that, right?
Yeah,
Earlier.
well, I was hanging out with a group of comedians for like in a food court. There was like 8 comedians, and it was like the
Mhm.
funniest night of my life. These guys were just roasting each other. It was like a live roast. And when I look back and I'm like, man, that was an awesome night. And then my friends are like, dude, you got stabbed 13 times. Like, I don't care. That was an awesome night.
Yeah, it's interesting. So what were you thinking the moments right after the attack?
Um, I don't know. I remember, so the paramedic that saved my life, there was two of them. And this female paramedic, I don't know if you remember the show Touched by an Angel, but this woman
Yeah.
looked like she was
Mm.
glowing. That's all I remember is her smile. And it took me 29 years to find her. I was searching and searching, and we became friends about a year and a half ago. We found each other. And I'll just never forget her smile. And then there was another woman there, like a bystander that was watching, that got into the ambulance with me. And this lady, she was just holding my hand the whole time, just saying, you know what, you're going to be okay. And she was praying and all this stuff. And when I got to the hospital the next day, when I woke up, I'm like, where's that lady that was in the ambulance? I want to say thank you to her. And there was only the female paramedic and the guy driving. So I don't know what happened there. Maybe I have my guardian angel in front of me, but I remember clear as day. It could have been the morphine. I don't know. But in my
Well,
mind, I'll never forget those two ladies in the back of the ambulance with me, and it stuck with me.
I'm just curious before I know Dr. Davis is going to ask you something there. You hooked back up, you said about a year ago with, or a year and a half ago with the other paramedic, the female paramedic. What was that like?
Oh my goodness. I can't even explain it because I had tried for years and years and years just down endless roads. I was contacting like, the high ups for records, and but then we found out that at that time in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, there's only 2% of paramedics were female. So then I was able to narrow it down, and I put one last post on Twitter, which everyone says is the most evil thing in the world, but it's been so beautiful to
Except
me.
Elon Musk, he's not going to tell you no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I put out this one last post. I'm like, this is my last attempt. And it had like 800,000 reposts or likes in like 24 hours. This thing went everywhere. And then this paramedic sister reaches out to me. He's like, listen, my sister was a paramedic at that time. She's had an accident. She's got some brain injury, so her memory's really bad. I'm gonna let you talk to her. And we had a FaceTime. And as soon as she smiled,
You knew it.
I'm tears because I'll never forget that smile. And yeah, her and my daughter are close. She checks in on me every second day. We text each other because we both have some same demons, and
Hmm.
it's amazing.
Well,
No, one of the things, Dave, that when you were in the hospital, one of the a father of one of the assailants came to apologize for his son's actions, um, and you refused. Can you explain what you were going through at the time and why you decided not to um, why you decided to say no?
Looking back on that, I think my mind was just so messed up. I mean, for a lot of time, these guys were from Somalia, and I was afraid to tell the story, but it's whenever I'd see anyone that looked like that, I'd have to walk the other way. And my ex-wife was 8 months pregnant, and we were moving, and I was by myself lifting boxes up and down 4 floors. And these two Somalian guys that lived in the building, they start walking towards me, and I'm like, I'm ready to go because I think they're going to attack me.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes up to me and says, "My brother, do you need some help?"
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first big wake up call to, you know what? They're not all like this. And
Yeah.
it's, you know, I said no because my mind was in such a bad place. And it was only happened 2 days ago. And I told the police officer, just, you know what, say thank you to him for me, but I don't think I can see him right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I wasn't really saying no. I wasn't
Yeah.
afraid of what I might do face to face.
Well, it was, you just gone through such a traumatic
Yeah.
event, and I know you even mentioned in your book that there were times that you couldn't even sit on the bus near
No, if
people.
I was on public transit and a group
Mhm.
of Somalians got on, I'd get off and walk
Right.
just because I thought they were going to attack me. It's just something I had to get out of my head.
Yeah. Yeah, and literally that's PTSD.
Yeah.
You know,
It
the,
is.
the definition.
Mhm.
We hope the people that listen to this show understand that. Um, so did it just like go away? After meeting the guys, then I know they became friends of yours too. One of the guys that helped you move and stuff. Did that slowly make that go away? Was that therapy almost for you?
That was better than any psychiatrist I met with 3 psychiatrists, and it wasn't on. It started the process of making it okay. I'd still have moments.
Hmm.
I was in a movie theater, and a trailer came on for that Tom Hanks movie with the Somalian pilots, and I left because I started.
Mhm.
I'm like, I gotta go. I can't do this. And so I came back, but I had to go outside, and I'm outside pulling back darts, and I went back in. But that was the big step. And then when I started boxing, um, it's so inclusive there, and there's so many different types of people, and I met so many amazing, and it really got in my mind that you know what, this was one night, this was 3 guys.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah, it could have been anybody
Yeah,
really that night. It's who they happen to be. Now, you started, and you actually just alluded to part of it. Okay, you started to become really like, I don't want to say a party animal, but you were drinking about 5 to 6 nights a week after all that happened.
I didn't know how to deal with anxiety attacks and or panic attacks, and every time, if even just I closed my eyes at night, I'd see things. So I'd go out with friends and I'd drink by the pitcher of beer, at least 7 or 8 pitchers a night, and I'd get up and do impersonations. And for some reason, I'm a big white guy that can sound like Shaggy, like Mr. Lubba Lubba.
Wasn't
And
me.
it was, so yeah, I get dope and I do that, right? And people
Yeah,
would just
yeah,
laugh
man.
and laugh and laugh. And I'm like, okay, this is all right. I'm not thinking about any of this stuff. And then I get home and I'm all alone. And that's when it was like the next morning when you wake up feeling like crap, you go to work and then do it again. So it was at least 5 to 7 nights a week just singing and doing stupid stuff to make people laugh and made me feel better.
But you were self-medicating.
I was dying inside, man. I wouldn't be
Mhm.
here if I had kept on that. I know it.
Right. So I
Yeah.
know that at one point there was a woman who actually sat you down somewhere and said, you got a problem. You got to stop.
Well, you know what? I had a pretty large friend circle and no one saw it. No one knew it. I was pretty good at hiding it. But this little lady, okay, she's 5'2" and she's like a white Aretha Franklin. Like she had the pipes I've never heard in my life. When she would come in and I'd see her about to put a song up, I'd run up and put in ABBA or something because I did not want to go after her. So I just pick any song, put it up. All right. But this woman, her name is Tony Lynn. Her videos are still on YouTube. And It was about 45 minutes before last call, and I was playing a slot machine with no money in it, yelling at this thing, saying, "Why can't I win?" for 45 minutes. I'm wasted out of my mind, just hitting the buttons, and the thing. So she kind of grabs me by my shoulder and brings me to a booth with a pot of coffee and two cups. And I don't know if I can curse on here, but she said,
Yeah.
if you don't smarten the fuck up, you're not going to see 50. And I was about 38 years old that time, and it always stayed in the back of my head. And then she passed away on my birthday like 4 years ago. And even when I stopped drinking, my birthday was still the night when I went out and I just celebrate, and I still got pretty wasted. But then when she passed, that was my reminder, you know what? You're done. And I haven't been intoxicated since.
That's awesome, man. I like seriously, that's absolutely amazing.
And it's like my reminder every year, right? If I get tempted to go out on my birthday, this lady who I think was just an angel on earth, like that's my reminder, right? That's my lifeline right there.
When you look back, what did that conversation mean to you at the time?
I think about it now. I honestly would not be here if I kept, because I was not only drinking 5 to 7 nights a week, I was eating bar food for 5 to 7 nights a week, like chicken wings and all that good stuff, which I still
Greasy
have
stuff,
every now
yeah.
and then. I still enjoy, but it's just with a Diet Coke instead of like 8 pitchers of beer. But I wouldn't be here, and I used to think, I was maybe about 6 months after that conversation. I went home from a bar. It was a friend's birthday, and it was an open bar night. I mean, you put an Irish Newfoundlander in an open bar situation, it's not pretty for anybody. And I gotten home. I was on the 14th floor of a downtown apartment in Calgary, Alberta. 2:30 in the morning, and I'm just looking down. I'm staring at traffic, and my family's 3,000 kilometers away. I'm single. My Christmas tree is 6 inches high. It's a little thing I found at the dollar store. And I look down. I'm like, would anyone even give a shit if I just leaped off here? And it's almost like I felt something pull me off my balcony, and just I woke up on my couch with a half-eaten burger in my hand. I don't know what happened there, but excuse me, that was my biggest second wake-up call. That was my rock bottom. And a few years ago, I posted about that on Twitter. It's like, this is what happened. I told the full story, and I said, I've never posted about this moment of weakness before. And Michael Landsberg, who's a pretty famous media personality up here in Canada, he writes back and is like, that's not weakness. You just had the biggest moment of strength in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that reached out from that, I got people that messaged me at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't care if I'm up, I'll talk to them. I'll talk to anybody. So if you're watching this and you're struggling and you see my contact information there and you want to talk, I'm not a professional, but I've been through some shit.
Yep.
And, I'll
See,
talk
we
to
always tell people here in the States that if they're feeling that way, there's a number 988 that you can
Mhm.
call or text here 24/7, and there's somebody standing by that will talk with you.
Yeah.
There's sometimes like you just need to talk to somebody. You can't keep it internalized. You have to talk to somebody else. Now, I want to shift just a little bit here because we talk about the drinking, but during that time, I mean, I know when you were laid up from your injuries that you're in bed, you started putting on weight, by that
Oh,
point.
yeah.
And it,
One highlight from that though, because I was on a couch for 6 months, but I'm 18 years old, and every day these college nurses had to come change my bandages today. Okay, so it's almost like I'm wondering who I'm gonna get today because they're all like, I'm 18 years old. These
Dave,
smoke
I'm just picturing
nurses
you
are
laying
coming
there
in.
thinking, I can't believe they didn't realize I stabbed myself. I'm
Yeah,
totally teasing.
but yeah, no, I put on a lot of weight, and not only from that, but that's when I started the drinking. I was only about maybe 180 pounds back then. I was 6'2" before that happened. And over the span of 5 to 6 years, my biggest, I was 392 pounds.
wow.
And every day I get these online flashbacks come up like on whatever Facebook, and man, I don't remember hardly any of it, but it's so good to look back on. I'm like, wow, I was a real idiot. And just, I realized I can never run for mayor. I can never run for Senate or government because some of these pictures, oh my goodness. If someone did a
Well, but
scan,
but again, we talked about before the show like resilience. So actually, that
Yeah.
probably would. See, the reason I'm going to ask the next question because I believe the people that have that same conversation with themselves right now, I want them to hear what was going on with you. What was your internal dialogue with yourself at that time?
I didn't feel like I didn't. At this time, I was running a charity for the military. Okay, we'd send over. I'll tell this little story here. We'd send over coffee and care packages to Canadian troops in
Mm,
Afghanistan, and then the Americans they had so much sent that they shared. And it was I got knighted. These military guys nominated me to be knighted into the Order of St. George, and I didn't feel like I deserved shit because I felt like a total ass. So I'm sitting there in this church in Toronto with like former generals, five-star generals, the Minister of Defense, all these government officials surrounding me, and I'm just sitting there. I'm wasted out of my brain because they had an open bar the night before at the hotel. But again, Newfie, Irish, in an open bar, not good for anybody. But in my mind, I'm like, I don't deserve this. I don't know why I didn't die that night. Um, like I'd run this charity just because it felt good to give back. It made me feel like less of an asshole. But this constant voices in battle in my head was just, you don't deserve this. Just give up. Just, you know. So one of the most special, what it should have been one of the most highlights of my life. I mean, being knighted, the whole sword.
right.
I didn't have a neck then, and I'll show. I'm pretty sure I showed you the picture, but it was just a giant stump. So this guy's trying to put this medallion on me, and it gets to about here. So they had to get an extender. It's almost embarrassing as like a seatbelt extender on an airplane. They had to get an extender for this damn medal. And now I could put it on and have it loose like this,
Right.
right? But it was so embarrassing, and I used to constantly attack myself in my head, and it was just a
Do you,
constant
So
do
battle.
you find
basically,
yourself struggling with that, anymore today? Like,
No, zero. When I first started my podcast, I was terrified, but especially because I used to have a trolls used to give me wicked anxiety too. And I've gotten some trolls, but now I just laugh at them. And my girlfriend, who I ended up meeting through the book, which we can talk about whenever, but she has been my rock. She has given me so much confidence. And up until my third last guest on my show, I was always self-doubting myself, analyzing too much. Oh, I shouldn't have said this. Oh, I talk too much. But this guy came on with me and he was so closed. He had his hoodie up. The head was down. He was afraid to tell a story. It was like I was watching myself. And then about 30 minutes in, he's starting to feel more comfortable. His hoodie's down. He's back like this a little bit. And then by the end of the show, he's up like this, big giant smile on his face. And he's told me since the show that being on there changed his life. And to me, that is worth more than a 10 million view episode. Just know you impacted someone's life. So
I'm going to have you, I know you shared the screen before with me before we started the show. I'm going to have you email me that picture and I'll insert it right there during that too.
oh
So
yeah, for
that
sure. Me and
people,
this dude have
yeah.
we talk every day.
hmm
His only best friend he said was his AA sponsor, but now I feel me and this guy were meant to meet. We chat every day. He's putting out some new music. I've got some songs written. He's going to put some music too. It's just, I love it. I love it all.
And you're talking to two musicians, so that's why you're seeing the
yeah, oh yeah.
smile on our faces too about that. Go ahead, Eric. Eric's going to take this now off in a little bit of a different direction.
Okay. Now, you said there was a moment you were at the park with your daughter, Chloe. Tell us about the moment your daughter asked you to race her home and what went through your mind when you realized that you physically couldn't do it.
You know what? That's probably the highlight of my life right there, the end story of this. But My daughter was about 4. We were doing a professional photo shoot in a park. And so I have this photo of her up in my arms like this. It was just after she said, let's race home, Dad. Can we race home? And I was still 390 pounds then, at least 390. And because of my leg injuries and having half a muscle in my leg, I used to walk 1 kilometer and I would have leg cramps. So I look at her, I'm like, I'm sorry, sweetie. You know, Dad can't run. And her face, I could just, if you could visually see someone's heart breaking, that's what it was. Because it was the first time she'd ever asked me. And I let them walk out ahead because I didn't want her to see her dad crying. But man, I cried. And I thought about that for a long time. And then I started and failed and started and failed and started and failed up until 6 years ago. Yeah, so she would have been about almost 6. So, I mean, it was in my mind that I needed to do something, but of course, I'd start and fail, start and fail. And then I'm like, no. So I went online and I said, I need to figure out a way to stay accountable. So I said, I'm going to drop 100 pounds this year, save this tweet. I'm going to donate $1 a pound to my favorite military charity that helps veterans and first responders with PTSD through horses. And I left it there. And I'm like, okay, days I don't want to go, I'm going to read this post. Because I'm going to think about these guys that, like, paramedics saved my life. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for first responders. And it kept me accountable. And I hit my first 100-pound goal in a year. And I said, hey, $100 donation list charity. Anybody want to match me? 15 people matched me. So that turned into $1,500. A pretty well off Calgary businesswoman saw the post, matched it, topped it up to 5K.
Man.
6 months later, a Spruce Meadows, where they do the equestrian championships, because of the connection with horses, said, okay, top the donation up to $25,000.
Wow.
So from one little $1 post, I ended up dropping 100 pounds. And then my best friend said, okay, I just signed me, you, and your daughter up for a 5-kilometer race 6 months from now, so you better start working harder. I'm like, what? You're insane, man. I can't even walk 2 kilometers. But so we did it, and he would stop and wait for us, and me and my daughter. So we got about 100 meters from the finish line, like just like an Olympic style race. And like, she looks at me, she's like, Dad, let's run. Let's do this. So we bolt, and I ran 100 meters with her. So all the people that had finished were lined up on the side cheering everyone that finished last. We were third last. There was only this 88-year-old guy who was worse than me, but hey, I wasn't last.
Yeah.
Right? But we were the second last people. So we ran, and all these people are chapping, and they're like, don't let your dad beat you, and don't let your dad beat you. And we crossed the line, and give me a sec. I put my hands down on my knees, and I'm just like, holy shit. That's a life-changing moment right there. And my best friend was taking pictures of us and documented the whole thing. And I've got the medals up on my wall. I got our little number on the wall. And then a year later, we're just looking at each other, and she was reading a book about something. She's like, Dad, we should write a book about that. And I'm like, pfft. So I put out a message on my local page. Only 3,000 people live here. I'm like, any artist in town that can draw people. And this 15-year-old girl, her mom reached out. She's like, my daughter's drawing and she's saving for art school. She'd love to do your book. So we did this book together, and this kid drew the pictures, and this kid gave me so much hair. She gave me a nice hairline again. And
I might have to reach out.
there you go. Oh, it was nice. But
That was the great race my daddy and me, right?
yeah, the Great Race, My Daddy and Me. And
Yeah.
you know what? It's sold about 100 copies in 2 years. But if there was 100 people standing outside my window right now with that book saying, hey, man, this book is awesome. Boom, Amazon bestseller to me right there. But The coolest story that's happened from that book was a guy reached out to me. He's a veteran, a Navy veteran in Texas, and he picked up the book just because on the exact weekend that my daughter and I were doing our race, he was doing his first 5K with his two twin daughters. And this dude was 480 pounds, and he's now sitting at 200, just over 200.
Wow.
And so me and him too, we still check him. He's like, man, I felt like I was reading my life. I had to stop. It took me an hour to read your children's book. And like, I'm not, I can read, but I had to keep stopping because I felt like I was reading my life. And that right there is worth more than, if it was on the bestseller list.
You got to remember too, before I forget, because when you said it before about the race, that at least you didn't finish last. Somebody finished before. No, you're looking at it wrong. You finished the race.
Yeah.
That's all you look at. Regardless of whether you're first or last, you finished the race.
Yeah.
That's the accomplishment. And
Well, my
that's
daughter likes to remind me still that she beat me by half a second. There's going to be
You're
a
never going to
rematch.
win that argument.
yeah.
I don't even bother, man. She's almost 12. There's no fighting there. I'm just letting her have that one because.
Well, let me ask you what, because now we're talking about the children's books. There's also a second one titled "In the Heart of the Forest."
Yeah,
Okay,
this is this guy right
showing
here.
me that
And
one before we started. There you go.
yeah. So I wrote this. I mentioned the Somalians and the guys helped me. I won't spoiler alert the book, but the fox is me, and he has a fear of coyotes because of a past incident. And yeah, I won't put any spoiler alerts here just in case someone picks it
So
up.
should
But
we call you Felix then for the
you
rest
can
of
call me Felix. I've been called worse, man. but but I wrote this book for anyone, any parents, anyone out there with PTSD, how to relate to kids, what it's like. And the best moment from this book was my daughter read it after we were done with it. The pictures, this sweet lady in my town, it almost looks like she just drew the pictures on a page with a pen. If you feel it, I don't know. But my daughter looks at me and she says, Dad, is that why you always sit in the last row at church? Because I used to sit in the very back row because there was nobody behind me. I knew no one was going to jump me. I'm probably safe, 99.9% safe in a church. I don't know. Things are getting weird, but you never know. But she looked at me, she said, is this why you sit in the back at church? And I'm like, wow, that's it. Mission completed. If I can get that to parents, if someone's struggling mentally, who knows who I can help. I've had people reach out to me that I read that. And this one guy, he was in his 50s, but he had a fear of dentists. And he picked up the book to read to his granddaughter. And he went. He's like, I went like a week later. Because it just made me look. It's like, wow, you know what? I need to get over this. And not all dentists are gonna because there was a
Yeah.
dentist that really hurt him with needles or something. He didn't do whatever right to put him asleep. So he was a phobia dentist. So he gave it another try and then he went. So it's the little things like that, right? It's cool.
It's amazing when a book touches someone in a certain way. Now, Dr. David, you even have the book on addiction and recovery for
Yeah.
alcohol and stuff. I know even really weird, but the paranormal books that I've written. I mean, I've had people come up to me at things and say, "Well, when you were doing," and I actually had to think back, what the heck are they talking about? Because but yeah, how it spurs people. There's that feeling inside that especially with something like this, that makes it all worthwhile.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, so we're doing all of this. That's why all of this was so important to you. I mean, personally.
You know what? If you're at a concert or you see a clip online of a new artist and people are singing along with one of their songs for the first time and they have this look on their face like that's my I made it moment.
Hmm.
When I have a guest on or someone reaches out about this book or tells me that I had an impact on them or my guest, that's my I made it moment.
Right.
That's me. That's people singing along with a song that I wrote in 1980, like about an angry ex or something. I don't know, but that's my I made it moment when people reach out and say, "Hey, you know what? That impacted me."
Mhm.
Tell us about Tim Hortons for our troops.
So, 2007, one of my military buddies reaches out to me, and we used to talk once a week. He was over in Afghanistan, and he's like, dude, we just got a Tim Hortons here in the back of a transport truck for us. I'm like, it's a pretty big deal in Canada. Well, it used to be so much bigger, and Tim Hortons was pure Canadian, and you need it, your cup. Well, I'm drinking one right now, but
You know,
no,
believe it or not, I
not
remember
sponsored.
seeing that cup when you first when we were talking when you first came on. Yeah.
So, so I said to my friend, I said, "Wow, that's amazing. Do you have to pay for it?" And he's like, "Yeah, we pay for it." I'm like, "Not anymore. You don't." So this was back. They used to have these little paper certificates, and I started a group called Tim Hortons for Our Troops, and just said, "Hey, would anyone want to send over some of these coupon cards so our troops don't have to pay for coffee over there? You know, they're over there putting their lives on the line for us, and they got to pay $2 for a double double." And I wouldn't take any money directly from it. I had a contact directly with the military who would collect them for me. I had a PO box. People could send them there because I still have receipts from 2007 where someone sent me $40 to pick up some, just in case anyone asks to see it. It's saved. But in the first month, we sent over 10 grand worth of coffee, and then
Man.
by the first year, it was over $100,000 worth of coffee certificates sent over. And these guys had so much that they started sharing with the American guys and the British guys and all the coalition guys were all getting hooked on Tim Hortons. And my grandmother, rest her soul, she very very religious lady her entire life. Her and one of her daughters that live with her, um, in her sweet Newfoundland accent, she calls me. She's like, "David, I'm gonna send some coffee over to the troops, okay?" So she said. She goes and buys $20 worth of coupons, and on the back of every $1 page, she's written, "God bless you, stay safe," and her name. And my local newspaper from the town I was born in, they come to do an interview with her about it and the whole thing. And she's like, she calls me, she's like, "I gotta go get a perm. I gotta look right." I'm like, "Nan, it's the newspaper, right? They're not, it's just the newspaper story. I don't care." So the guy that went to interview comes and he's like, I took a picture of them, even though, and we're gonna put it in the paper because the two of them went and spent like $150 to get their hair perm for a newspaper story. But it was a few years later, a U.S. Marine reached out to me in my email, and he's like, "Can you please just say thanks to whatever lady?" And he sent a picture because he saved the certificate, and it was my nan's handwriting.
Wow.
He sent her a letter, so I sent her a letter, and she had it framed. She had it framed on our piano with the certificate in it, and she kept it. And everyone that came, she was like, "That's my grandson did that." And so it's, yeah, so many cool stories happen from that, and it kept my mind sane too, just doing that kind of stuff.
We're gonna have to refer Robert Ross to him, Eric. Do you
Yeah.
remember what he had a few weeks ago? He
Yeah.
had served 20 years in the Canadian Army, the Armed
Oh
Forces,
wow,
and he's big country music star now,
Hmm.
oh
doing
wow.
really, really well and stuff. So I and had so much to do with we call it the American Legion here. I forget what the Legion. Um, what's the Canadian version of?
The Royal Canadian Legion.
Right. Yes, he does a lot of work with the Royal Canadian Legion as well too. So we'll try to hook you guys up together too, because I think
Oh, I had to
you
get him.
probably
My daughter did a painting when she was 3.5 years old, the poppies, and I'd love to get him a print of that. We
yeah.
every year we give out a print to a veteran on Remembrance Day up here,
Mhm.
kind of our 7 year tradition. So I'd love to get him a print.
Oh yeah, definitely. That we'll hook you guys up together. He's phenomenal guy. Really, really,
Yeah.
really good guy. Well, folks, it's that time of the show again where
It's the lightning round.
yes, it's the lightning round. Okay.
Yay.
We have 5 quick questions. And I explained this a little before, but I didn't give away any questions to him. Okay,
All right.
whatever comes to mind first. a word or two, a short sentence, little reply. Okay, here's the first one. What was the hardest moment during your journey to change your life?
Giving up chicken wings.
Okay, that's good. What was the one thing that helped you stay committed when things got really difficult?
My daughter is my noise canceling headphones to everything.
Here you go. What was the best advice someone ever gave you during your recovery?
My military friend who said to me, just because the past taps you on the shoulder, it doesn't mean you have to turn around and look.
That's really good.
That's good.
Yeah, I think Dr. Davis will remember that one.
Oh, I'm going to, yeah.
Yeah,
It made it in my book. It made it in my book. The
there we
Wise
go.
Owl.
Which we're going to talk about in 2 minutes here. Okay, what is something your daughter's taught you about your life?
That she's proud of me and I'm worth it.
And the last one, the smartest move you've ever made in your life.
Reaching out to my now girlfriend who left a review on that book. She's changed my life.
So, okay, so before I go on then, so is that how you met her?
Yes.
Okay, because it just clicked when you said that.
She I live in a town of 3,870 people and she didn't have kids, but she battled PTSD and her own demons for 14 years. So she bought this book just to support me and a local author. And she read it and she reached out and left the most beautiful review I've ever read in my life. And I had a message typed up to her for about 6 hours. And in this day and age, I didn't want to be too creepy, but I wanted to say hi. So we start talking, and it was like talking to a version of myself. Like we both were on the same PTSD plane, just different sections, different causes. And she's been sober 16 years. She's lost 200 pounds herself. We've lost a combined 400 pounds. And whenever I'm having moments, like if I have a really powerful guest on my show and it gets like 8 views, sometimes I'll be like, oh man, come on. But she is my constant cheerleader. She's my number one fan. She's my soulmate. This woman is amazing because I've been through some years with some horrible relationships, and this woman, yeah, all from this book. And we met, and my biggest thing was trying to date when you have a daughter, not happening because I'm so cautious of her and her heart, and I protect that with my life. But I'm like, all right, well, let's meet. Let's go have an ice cream at Dairy Queen, and you can meet my daughter. Something told me to let it happen. So I get up to go to the washroom, and these two are just sitting at the booth. My daughter's got a list of questions she has ready to interrogate her. And the two of them look like best friends, just sitting there chatting. And that was how I knew. I'm like, all right, this is good.
Well, tell us about your book yourself. The book. It My Path to Finding Me. Am I correct?
You know what? That was just something I wrote because a friend of mine said you should put your workouts on there and everything you did. And I lost about 160 pounds overall. Now I've managed to stay off, and I just wanted to put that online. And every now and then it'll sell a copy, and I'm like, oh well, cool. It's just digital. It's like $2 or $3. I don't even remember, but it's like the minimum Amazon makes you put. I think I get like 10 cents a copy or something. But I don't track that. Um, but yeah, some people have reached out to me that have read that. And eventually I'd like to do a full memoir with everything because when I hand over my podcast to my daughter, she wants to take it over when I can't use a computer anymore.
Mhm.
But yeah, just about leaving legacy and helping people, and all my workouts are in there and everything I did, and just trying to help one person. And so far 19 people have read it. So hey.
So for the people that are listening or listeners here, the links for the books, even the children's books and this books are in the video's description too. So you can just go to the description. You have to keep listening back. Well, what did he say the name of the book was? Or just go right there and you'll be able to find everything we're talking about, including the podcast.
Yeah.
Which I guess is a good segue to that. Tell us about your podcast. which if you can't figure out the name of it, look over his right shoulder. 30 Minutes of Fame. Yeah. Yeah, you're like me, okay, which I had to actually
Yeah, there
think
we
about
go.
it.
There's my Vanna White moment.
Yes, there you go. Tell us about the podcast.
You know what? It all started with my second guest was the paramedic that saved my life. And I don't know how many people out there that have had their life saved by someone would get to do that. And it was just the most beautiful, real conversation I've had. And she's such an amazing woman. Um, it just really started there. And with a veteran walking across Canada for PTSD, that was my first two episodes. And looking back on those, like how the layouts and stuff and how I've gotten a little better and just, I don't script them. They're just chats. I'll put up like 5 points and then we'll just go from there. And sometimes they just go to nothing to something amazing. And I've had an Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonator on there who did the entire show as Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it was amazing. I had a
Well,
little
when the show
Aussie.
is over, did he say, "I'll be Mark"?
He did. I asked him to say "Get to the chopper," all that stuff, and then he sang "Pink Pony Club" in the style of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he hosts these online karaoke's where all he does is sing requests in Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice.
Wow.
That's
And
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get him in contact with Arnold Schwarzenegger because uh, 3 years ago I had posted a picture of me and my daughter when I was really huge. And then I posted a picture of me and my daughter working at a gym at 150, and Arnold Schwarzenegger reposted it. And I ended up deleting it because I'm an idiot and I had panic attacks. When I got trolls or things went viral, sometimes I panic and delete them. But that post had over 9.2 million views in a week.
Wow.
And I wish now I hadn't have, but hey, you know what? Sorry, kind of rambling there, but the podcast, it's just watching people. I had a boxer come on who was an addict, and he went to a rehab center in Las Vegas, which you usually don't put those two things together.
Hmm.
But he went to
Yeah.
Las Vegas to get straight, and he's like, "Man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk 10 minutes. Like, I don't have a lot to say." And we did a 45-minute episode, and he still talks about it now and how it changed him. And just hearing that from people, just from having a conversation, is the most powerful feeling in the world.
You
And
know,
I
it's
love it.
funny. You made a statement there. You said, your stuff isn't scripted. Okay. And whereas, that people that see us, like on our show, they see us with these papers, they're not really a script. And
No,
actually,
no, no,
when
no.
we send these out, we call it an outline,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
what I call it, just so that I make sure, I know for myself, and Dr. Davis is the same way too,
Yeah.
that we don't forget something
Oh, no, no. Yeah,
we
yeah.
wanted
I
to
mean,
talk
this is,
about. But the best conversations are just letting it go.
Organic. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you went through your story and, we passed like half a page because you've covered, making
Yeah.
sure just that we covered certain things. And I think people appreciate the real stories a lot better. So, but now we're going to ask you a couple of serious questions. Okay, summation questions here. Okay, what would you say to someone who's currently self-medicating with alcohol, because of trauma?
talk to someone. Um, if it's not your family, because I wouldn't talk to my family, I wouldn't talk to close friends. I'd go on, I find talking to strangers is easier. So I'd go on like TikTok or Twitter and I'd put in a hashtag with recovery. Find someone that's going through it, that's been through it, and just say, "Hey, can I reach out?" 99% of them will. Some of them are on there for different reasons, but you can find the
Mhm.
genuine ones. So talk someone, use that text line. We have the same 988 up here in Canada. Just talk to somebody.
Yeah.
I had put a post up the other day about the thing on the patio with me wanting to leap, and someone's like, "Well, I don't have anyone to talk to." I'm like, "You do now. Just send me a message." And then I listed them all their resources. I looked up where they were and found out things. And there's a lot of help out there, a lot more help now than there was 16 years ago when I was going through my darkest shit. we had the kids' help phone, and I'm like way too old for that. But I could call him like, "Hi, I like to drink a lot. Can you help me?" No, not probably not on kids' help phone, but just reach out to someone, anyone. Watch some podcasts, watch recovery podcasts, listen to people's stories,
Yeah.
and
It's true because I was part of a group for a long time. It was a good friend of mine who was a psychic medium, Scotty Rorick, who we've had on the show. He had a group called Psychics Unite. And the reason they did the Psychics Unite was there were so many people that had nobody to talk to, okay, about their abilities, and especially if LGBTQ problems and stuff, with the psychics, there was no one to turn to. And they found that it helped so much to get into a room with a bunch of people. They used the Zoom room, just like we're using here. And they all got together and they just talked. No judgment or anything, and you could just talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And that's so important. I mean, I
yeah,
used to be part of the meetings. I helped them form the thing. But it was so much just to sit back and listen to someone talking about their problems and feeling it's a sense of freedom when you're able to express what you're feeling to somebody who genuinely cares and wants to listen to you. That
one of my guests I had on, he runs an organization called Rise and Recover, and he's just an addict that he's been to prison, and when he got out, he said that's enough. And he'd host these TikTok lives where there's like 9 boxes, and he'll just go in and open them up, and people come up and ask a question. And even if it's just chat only, if they're not coming up on camera, but they do those once a week, it's like almost like an online AA meeting that's not really AA because you're on TikTok and you're exposing yourself a bit. But if you don't want to, like, it's power. Like, there's so much good out there.
Mhm.
You just got to look a little harder for it.
hmm
Yeah. If you could speak to the 18-year-old version of yourself, that was lying there after the incident, what would you tell him?
Don't change a thing. Um, I always see these posts about if you go back, I wouldn't say a word because I've watched too many Back to the Future movies. I know if you do one little thing different, all of a sudden I'm not a dad or I'm not out in Alberta. I
Yeah.
just say, you know what? Just you'll get through this one day at a time, man. Just do whatever you're gonna do.
Well, David, your story this evening reminded us that even after unimaginable trauma, people can still rebuild their lives and live and help others in the process.
Yeah. What stands out to me the most is how David turned his pain into purpose, using his recovery not just to improve his own life, but to support others dealing with PTSD.
Now, David, thank you for sharing your story with us. And one question I didn't ask, where we talked about the 30 minutes of fame. What night of the week is it on? Where can they find it?
I usually put out a new episode every Wednesday or Thursday,
hmm
and if you just search 30 Minutes of Fame on YouTube or Spotify
Okay.
and Facebook and Twitter and TikTok, it's 30 Minutes of Fame everywhere. I came up with the name because I used to be with someone that would call me an attention whore, and just when I'd have these media when I have these media stories about my story, I'm like, oh, you're just looking for your 15 minutes of fame. And I'm like, okay, well, I've already had mine. My story's already been out there. I don't want it anymore. So let's bring people on, give them 15 minutes of fame, and now we got 30 together.
30 minutes. Yep, there you go.
I love it.
You know what? And it's, to those people that are out there that may think it's, you're looking for the fame, you're not looking for fame. At this point now, you're looking to help other people.
Yeah.
And I
And you know
think
what?
that's
It
really
also
amazing.
it also partially came from being a single dad and not being able to pay the extra fee for the long episodes. So I had to keep them under 40 minutes. So to
Yeah,
be
well,
blatantly honest, it's a little
it's funny
bit.
because people always ask us, when we're pre-interview, and it's like, how long is the interview? And it's like, well, we like to keep it around 60 minutes, but heck, I mean,
Yeah.
there's some episodes we've gone like an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
If the
Yeah.
conversation is good and the story is good, and it's, you know, I hate using Dr. Phil's word, but it becomes like a teaching tool to
Mhm.
people because they can relate to something that they hear and they can see themselves in it and they can learn something about themselves through your story. Okay. And realize, you know what? power to do that.
Yeah.
I can lose weight. I can do this. I watch my own. We see the commercials. They want to give you medications for they're sitting at home, and you can't do anything to help your child. You can't go out, lose some weight. Okay, you get up, do something about it. You'll find that energy inside yourself, and you've shown that. It took your daughter to come to you, but you know what? It hit. They may have missed your heart when they tried to stab you, but your daughter knew exactly where your heart was.
Yeah.
And found
Yeah.
it first shot. And David, I thank you because
Yeah.
your story is an inspiration to others, especially people suffering from PTSD. And we talked before Dr. Davis came on. I truly invite all listeners, to go and listen to some of these episodes. Okay, because he's talked to some great people on the
Yeah.
show, and sounds like a really, really good show. In fact, when we're done with this later today, or tonight, when I'm sitting watching TV, I'm going to turn on YouTube and I'm going to watch a bunch of these episodes as well.
One of them I had on, if you don't mind me just mentioning,
Yeah.
she was Miss Texas, like Miss America, a pageant queen.
Mhm.
And for me personally, that was eye-opening because you look at these women and you're like, wow, this is like, they got their shit together.
Hmm.
But this lady tried to take her life the night before a pageant by running in the middle of traffic.
Oh.
And just talking about how much anger there is backstage and them all criticizing how much they pay for their dresses and all that. That movie Miss Congeniality, she said, was so accurate, just with more
Mhm.
F-bombs. If you put more F-bombs in Miss Congeniality, it'd be 100% accurate.
Good to
So that's why I
know.
love like taking down those barriers, right? Like
Yeah.
you look at a Miss America pageant, or you look at I had a doctor on that lost his practice, lost everything, went to prison, and I'd love to have him send him your way. He uh
Yeah.
he was given 48 hours to live, and now he's like a professional trainer and looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And this guy was in prison and he's trying to get his license back, trying to get his life back together. But I mean, you look at a doctor who looks like he could be on Days of Our Lives as like, as a really good looking dude. I'm not ashamed to say it. Shout out to Dr. Brett. But but yeah, it's just you don't realize what people are going through. Like it's just be kind and talk to people.
You remember even Jeff's story, Jeff Gazier?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
how much was it that he had stolen? I
It
don't
was
know,
over 750,000.
$1,000 he had stolen from company he worked for, was using it for gambling to pay
Wow.
his gambling debt,
Yeah.
and woke up, it was his wife's birthday or something like that,
Hmm.
with like 50 something federal agents at his front door at like 6 in the morning,
Yeah.
arresting him for that. You
Hmm.
know, it's the kind of story, and he's turned his life around,
Yeah.
and he's helping other people that have gambling addictions and everything else. There is so much that's out there, and it's so important for people to hear stories like this. Stories of resilience, stories of hope,
Hmm.
people turning their lives around. It's, as I said to you earlier before we started, that's why we do the show. If we can
Yeah.
help just one person each episode, it's definitely worth it. And it sounds like you're doing the same. So, David, I thank you for joining us today, and I wish you plenty of luck in the future.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Would I be able to ask you guys one question that I ask
Sure,
at the
you
end of
sure
every
can.
episode?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so I've had some pretty heavy topics on my show and some guests, with some. So at the end of my every show, I try and break the ice with something stupid. And so here we go. This is for both of you. A 100-meter pigeon carrying contest. How many pigeons could you fit in your arms and still have in your arms at the end of the race?
Man, I don't know.
But would they fly away?
No, they're tame. They're tame
Okay, so
pigeons.
to
They're just
name down,
Uh,
probably about, in my arms, I can probably carry.
10,
So I grew up in New York City, so
5.
I know pigeons very well. I would probably say about 10, 15.
oh, that'll put you guys in like the top 20% of my answers out of 83 episodes. So
Okay.
Really?
yeah, the
Yeah,
lowest was zero. The lowest was zero. I had a lady that had a phobia of pigeons and Canada geese, so she wouldn't even answer the question. and then the top was like 200 and something with guy was gonna put bird seed all over his arms.
I mean, if they were tamed and they were, I don't have a problem with them. I don't have a fear of birds, so yeah, I would carry them. As
And that's
you
my
said,
little trick to find out if people are watching my full episodes. So I have friends like, "Oh, that episode was amazing." I'm like, "Oh, what'd you think of that question at the end?" They're like, "What are you talking? Yeah, go back."
well, and that's the thing too. We hear everybody say it. It's we really want people to watch to the end of an episode
Yeah.
because especially with ours, we wind up asking the important questions. That sum it up from a mental health point of view at the end.
Yeah.
And it's so important, and especially for all of us anyway, for our stats, which, like you said, we really don't care that much about, but it still helps the channel because if we're not looking for a monetary or anything out of it, we're looking to get the show out to more people, and
Yeah.
getting the show out to more people means more people have to watch it all the way through. And when more people watch it all the way through, YouTube and their algorithms will recommend us to more people, and we get the message out to more people. And
Yeah.
it seems like you're doing the same thing with your 30 minutes of fame of trying to get the message out to more and more people. So,
Yeah.
well, Dave,
Perfect.
thank you for joining us today, and we truly appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dave.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for having me. You guys have an awesome day.
And you too. David truly has an amazing story, a really inspiring story, and we're so grateful he was willing to share that story with us this evening. Now, Dr. Davis, I got four quick questions before
All
we
right.
end this episode. What kind of trauma responses are common after violent attacks like this?
Honestly, I think that when David was talking about how, what that was like to deal with that assault after it had happened,
Hmm.
like the fear that he developed, even though he was acknowledging, like, wait a second, I know not everybody is the same. He's basically just saying, I was scared and that was causing problems for me. So, I mean, really, I would say that's a pretty standard response to where it violates our sense of safety, trust of others, all of those things. That's totally normal in a case like that.
And remember, if you see somebody, like in David's case, he was talking about when he was on the bus and he couldn't sit next to,
Hmm.
someone of that nationality, and get up and walk away, don't naturally assume what's going on there at the moment, because there
Yeah.
could be something much deeper that's going on inside that person. So,
Yeah.
we need to be aware of that. Okay, what's the connection between purpose and recovery?
So the way I always kind of explain that is recovery is something that enables me to find my true purpose.
Hmm.
Where if I'm in active addiction and I'm drinking every day or getting high every day and basically just living in that cloud, you know, th that kind of becomes the purpose, you know. And that's what that's a great question because that comes up a lot in therapy where individuals will, they make all the changes and they kind of start to build and put together a brand new life that's, supportive of recovery. And then they kind of, they're after think of like the last little piece of putting everything together is in place. Then they're kind of like, well, what now? So
Hmm.
finding a purpose in recovery is extremely important.
See, and David, in his case, he did find a purpose.
Oh,
He was going
absolutely.
to
Yeah.
go out, he was going to help others,
Hmm.
and he's continuing to do so, and God bless
Yeah.
him for that. So, how important is that family motivation? Like, David has his daughter, Chloe, in long-term change.
Oh, I think very important. I mean, I always say to individuals, like clients that I'm working with that are struggling with substance use disorder and their family is involved, trying to help. A lot of times the person will, they'll be frustrated, and it's like, because, well, why are they questioning me? And,
Hmm.
they just won't believe anything I say, and the thing is that this is just a message for anyone who has created some turmoil in your life as a result of active addiction. If you're out there listening, relationships are salvageable, but not instantly. It takes consistent honesty, consistent sticking to the plan. And always remember that people will never ultimately listen to what we say, only what we do.
Right.
And really, what's really amazing about David's story is, I mean, he really embodies that, where it was like, he took action. He did, and that's the thing. His actions speak so loud for what he was working to accomplish that he didn't have to tell anybody. You
Right.
can just look at what he did and you know what his purpose was. I mean, that's just amazing. That's a real compliment to him.
Just remember too, and like we said, your family has to support you
Yeah.
along the way, because that is
I
that
do have
little,
some clients that,
a little
they,
push. You
yeah, but some clients have to do it without family support. And I can tell you, they have a much more difficult time.
know? Hmm.
Just being there for the person and that person just knowing that you love them in spite of whatever it is they're struggling with, that can make all the difference in the world.
So if someone's struggling right now with PTSD, what resources are available for them?
Therapists, the VA hospital, any behavioral health treatment any therapist is going to be a great help for that, because PTSD is not something that typically a person can just like think themselves out of. If they could, they would do that every time. But especially with PTSD, they're finding that EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reintegration, I believe, that's extremely effective. And I mean, there are a lot of great resources for PTSD. So a good place to start would just be go online and type in PTSD resources, and a lot will start coming up. You can also, if you are really struggling, you can always call 988. I know that we
Right.
say that all the time.
And if you need to find a place too, you can do it from your home. Call One Approach
Absolutely.
Counseling on top of that too. So Dr. Davis, stories like David's remind us that sometimes the most powerful moments in life come when we're forced to stop, look honestly at where we are and where we want to go.
Yeah. What stands out to me about David's story is that change didn't happen because life suddenly became easy. It happened because he made a decision in a very real moment that his future and the example he set for his daughter mattered more than continuing down the path that he was on.
That's that purpose we're talking about.
Mhm.
And I think that's something a lot of people can relate to. Many people are quietly struggling with stress, trauma, addiction, or mental health challenges. And sometimes it can feel overwhelming to imagine changing that direction.
But the important thing to remember is that change often starts with a single decision, a single moment where someone says, I want something different for my life. And as David's story shows, even small steps in the right direction can lead to incredible transformation over time.
So if you're watching this today and you're struggling with your mental health, please remember we say this often on the show, but you're not alone and your life truly does matter.
Yeah. Reaching out for help is one of the strongest things a person can do. Whether it's talking to a therapist, a trusted friend, or a family member, there are people who care and resources available to support you. Also, remember you can always dial or even text 988 for assistance, as someone is standing by 24 hours a day and is willing to listen and help you get the assistance you truly need.
And remember, as David pointed out, it's even available in Canada.
Yes,
So
it is.
you can do it in Canada as well.
Thank you again for that, David.
Yep. And we want to thank David for sharing his powerful story with us today. And we even want to thank all of you for watching and being part of this conversation about mental health.
Yeah. Please remember to like and subscribe to our shows so you don't miss any future episodes. Also, remember you can share this with someone who may need to hear it for their own lives.
So remember too to visit Your Life Matters Your Life Matters Podcast.com for more information on how you can become a guest on the show. Just so you know, that's where David's story came to us from. And remember all the links that we talked about, even with David, his books, and even what we've been talking about here, you can always find in the episode's written description.
Yeah. Join us again next week for another conversation focused on mental health, resilience, and hope.
So until next time, God bless you, and always remember your life
Your
truly
life
matters.
matters.
God bless.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Your Life Matters Show podcast. If today's conversation resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share the episode so more people can be part of these important conversations around mental health. And remember, your life matters. We hope to see you again next week.